Hi, I'm Rachel Fig King. Welcome to my channel, Jemima London. So this week's video is all about the lace skirt that I showed you in last week's occasion wear video. Thank you so much for all your feedback and comments. Many people have asked me directly to do a tutorial about this skirt. Now, when I made it a few weeks ago, I actually filmed and photographed the process, not the complete process, but I think I've got enough footage to show you how I made it. It's made, here's photographs of me wearing it. It's made from Guipure lace. I've got a swatch of it here. It's not one of those laces that's on a mesh back. It's see-through as you can see, and when they make it commercially now on the machine, what they actually do is they embroider it onto an acetate base, I believe, and then dissolve the acetate base. If it's handmade, it's made with lace bobbins, but this isn't. This is from Walthamstow Market from Rose Fabrics, and I shall put a link below in the description. They had a really small amount of it. It cost me, I bought a metre. I managed to squeeze this skirt out of a metre of lace. It cost me £20. Anyway, so it's made out of Guipure lace, black Guipure lace, and it has a black polyester lining and interlining. It has 100% cotton binding around the waist, on the waist, and it has a concealed back zip, and I've hemmed it by hand, piecing extra bits of the lace on. So let's just have a quick look at the actual skirt close up. So here you can see it close up. It's really simple. It's got two waist darts and two at the front and back, a centre back seam, and I'll show you how we achieved the hem detail later. You can see the cotton bias binding. It's quite a wide bias binding that I put around the waist, and it has a centre back concealed zip and a very simple centre back split, which I bagged out and hand finished. So it is an extremely simple style, but it needs to be. So I'm going to start talking about the pattern, and it's an extremely simple pattern. It's a basic pencil skirt, and here's a picture of the two pattern pieces. So it's a front piece that you can cut on the fold, and a one back panel piece. Darts at the waist, two at the front, two at the back, centre back seam, and a centre back split and concealed zip. So it's so simple, and you cut the lace, you cut the interlining, and you cut the lining from exactly the same pattern pieces. So very simple. Okay, so here you can see that I've laid the lace on top of the interlining as I want it to sit. So the next stage, because you're going to treat the interlining and the lace as one layer, you need to baste them together so they behave as one piece of fabric. So here I am using a tacking cotton and a needle, and I'm just making large basting stitches, and I go all around the edge and a little bit up the middle on the front panel because it's wider, and then, and only then, I cut out the lace, and I saved all these edging pieces for the hem, and I will show you how I did that the hem by hand later. So yeah, so basically cut my panels out, and here you can see the final cut panel. So you've got the front and the two back panels, and they're just all basted together, and they're big stitches, so they're very easy to remove when you've actually stitched the panels together. So the first operation on the machine are the 4 darts, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. I usually start at the top. I've made red tailor tacks. You can see the little red thread here through all the layers. You can see me removing them now, so you can actually see the bottom of the dart, which is always helpful. So you make your four darts. And then your next stage will be stitching the centre back seam from the bottom of the zip, which you're going to insert the zip next, to the top of the split. All my seam allowances here are 1.5. I like to use a really wide seam allowance, a fairly wide seam allowance, because you've got more room to manoeuvre. You can always cut them back at the end of the day. You can make them smaller, you can't make them bigger. Okay, so here I am putting my concealed zip in. Not the easiest on, it's quite, the lace is quite bulky actually, quite bumpy, so it was quite tricky. I managed to pull it off. I don't like putting zips in. I don't know anybody who does, especially concealed zips, but I have had a reasonable amount of practice over the years, so I managed to get my centre back zip in, and you can see I'm doing this before I attach the back to the front, because it just means you've got one flat piece of fabric and it makes it a hell of a lot easier. You haven't got all that extra fabric that you're actually dealing with. So that's the insertion of the centre back concealed zip, which you can see I'm just finishing here, just getting down to the very bottom. There are different ways of doing this. You can do it before you've even closed the seam actually, but this is my preferred way of actually doing it, and I think you can see the actual finished edge. So side seams next, again 1.5 centimetre, so you put them right sides together, back to the front, and you stitch 1.5 centimetre seam allowances down both sides. So that's the actual basic outer shell of the skirt made. Obviously very, very straightforward. Right, so I'm going to talk you through putting the lining in with the skirt here in front of me, and I hope I make sense. I'm finding this quite difficult to explain. Anyway, so you make the lining out of the same pattern. So you do the front bust, the front waist starts, the back waist starts. You do the centre back seam, leaving room for the concealed zip and taking into account the centre back split, and you stitch the side seams and you press it. Okay, so what you then need to do is put your lining inside your skirt, wrong side to wrong side. I would pin vertically around the waistline so you've got all layers together, and then you need to stitch the lining around the zip, leaving a reasonable amount so the zip teeth do not catch the lining. So it's nicely bagged out around the zip. The next thing you will do is you will add the waist binding on. I did this by stitching from the right side and then pressing to the wrong side and then finishing it by hand. The only thing I haven't done on this skirt is I really need a hook and eye fastening. I've added a sort of a black one in a particular width and it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm wearing this in a couple of days time, so hopefully the hook and eye, whatever you want to call it, will have arrived. So essentially the top of the skirt is now finished and you need to deal with the hem. So I cut this as long as I could. I had limited fabric, as you can see. Fortunately it was just about long enough. So I hand stitched the inside, the interlining. I didn't attach it to the lace. I hand stitched it with sort of like almost like a herringbone hemming stitch. You can't actually see it because I've bagged out the lining. So I'm going to hold it up and try and explain myself the best I can. So I'll put my hand underneath. You can't see, all you can see is a finished hem. So the interlining is stitched up. You can see it next to the lace. And I stitched that up with a herringbone stitch. And there are a few hand stitches which you could probably see with an eagle eye, but you don't see it under the lace. And then, I'm going to turn the skirt inside out, I actually hand stitched the lining. It's herringbone stitch just underneath there, and it falls just short of the hem of the interlining, so you don't see it, and then I steam pressed it. So that essentially was how I finished the lining and the interlining hems. And then you can see it's got quite a shaped, an intentionally shaped hem edge there. And this next bit of footage shows you exactly how I do it. I should also add at this point, I obviously had to bag out the lining with the lace, and I did it in a very similar way to the zip, just hand stitching the two folded edges together. Now here you can see me stitching. What I did was I cut pieces of the border of the lace, and I pinned them all around the skirt, so you've got that continual sort of repeat border motif going around the hem of the skirt. And this is me just very simply stitching them on, and fortunately, because of the nature of the lace and the texture, it's actually quite forgiving. You make sure you do it securely, and you just stitch to the parts of the lace as you can, so it will sit flat. And then afterwards I gave it a really good press to achieve that nice hem edge, which I think has really been quite successful. I hope you enjoyed that. I was so nervous about doing a demonstration. I've got a sort of a background as a designer, and I worked in the industry, and I'm very aware there's more than one way of doing things, and I'm just really nervous to do this. And I have just made it the way that I think works best, and I know there are many different ways of putting zips in, doing hem finishes. It was very difficult to explain the hem finish, and I hope it was clear. I hope you got a sense of how it went together. It's actually not that difficult to do. There's a lot of hand stitching involved, which I really love. I really enjoy, and I hope maybe you'll be inspired to go off and make your own lace skirt, because it's a really great piece for your wardrobe. And it cost me £25. The lace was £20, and then I had the lining, which I bought in the same shop as the lace, Rose Fabrics, which was a couple of quid, and the bias binding. The bias binding was probably more expensive than the lining, and the conceal zip, which I had anyway. A straightforward piece for your wardrobe, but I think really useful for occasion wear, and something that you could probably wear in the summer because it's quite lightweight as well. So I'll put some information in the description about where I got the fabric and the bias binding, etc., that I bought for it, and where you can get the zips. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. It's the first time I've done a sort of a semi demonstration video. It wasn't really complete because I didn't actually really plan to do it. So anyway, I hope you found it interesting. Please like, share and subscribe. I shall be back next week with something definitely more festive. I'm actually going to film next week's video tomorrow. Quite excited about that. I'm going somewhere with a couple of friends, so that's going to be good. So I'll see you next week. Bye.